Hello, BookTube. I've got another comic book today. This is the New Teen Titans Volume 11. So this contains the issues of the New Teen Titans from January 1986 to August of 1986. Originally published in the New Teen Titans, but then republished a year later in the cheap reprint Tales of the Teen Titans, number 75 to 83. And those alternative covers are here in the back. These are the reprints in Tales of the Teen Titans. And as I've said on this channel a few times before, I discovered these stories through Tales of the Teen Titans, which in the early 90s had made their way to the 3 for $1 bargain bin at my local comic book store. And there was a whole run of them there, and I bought up the whole run. And so I had not quite all of these issues, but most of these issues when I was 15. And am viewing them through those nostalgia-tinted glasses. So there are some dramatic points in these issues that I will be gushing about a little bit, talking about what good drama they are. Some of that is me remembering how much this impressed me when I was 15, and maybe they don't quite hold up to adult sensibilities if I was being purely objective about it, but I still think they pack a punch. Maybe that's just the nostalgia talking. You'll have to let me know what you think. But yeah, these were some of my favorite issues here. Despite the fact that I've got a lot of criticisms about these issues as well. So let's get into it. I've got some positive things to say and some negative things to say about these issues. So the first thing to note is that many of the storylines in these issues are retreading ground that had already been covered about 3 years earlier by the New Teen Titans in their earlier appearances. And it's kind of really bizarre how blatantly these stories are being repeated. Now, I know that to a certain extent, comic books repeat popular villains, right? So the Joker always comes back to fight against Batman, or Lex Luthor always comes back to fight against Superman. But they usually have different stories, right? So the Joker doesn't do the same scheme every time. He's got a different crazy scheme every time, or Lex Luthor has a different plot every time, or at least they did in the good days of comics, where you would reuse the same villains, but you would have different plots each time. These are the same villains repeated and largely the same plots. So we've got Starfire's sister, who is trying to take over Tamaran again. And so we've got a little bit of a space opera or a Flash Gordon type interplanetary adventure. But it's largely a repeat of what happened in the early days of the New Teen Titans. And then, while that's going on, we've got the Church of Brother Blood, who are attempting to frame the Titans and brainwash the Titans. And again, it's very similar to the same plot that played out a few years earlier in this comic. All the way to Dick Grayson being captured and then brainwashed by the Church of Brother Blood, which is something they already did 3 years ago when Dick Grayson also got brainwashed by Brother Blood. And then they have the fight against Memento, who is Gar Logan's adoptive parent, Steve Dayton, who goes crazy and forgets, loses his mind so that he attacks those closest to him, meaning his stepson, And Gar Logan has to fight his own stepfather, which is, again, a plot line they already did before. And when I say they, I guess I mean Marv Wolfman, because I think he was the sole person responsible for writing these issues. So I think it's fair to say maybe at this point in the Teen Titans run, Marv Wolfman apparently just ran out of ideas and was recycling ideas he used earlier. But what's interesting about round 2 is Marv Wolfman, the second time around, seems to have gotten much more sophisticated with his serialized storytelling. So all of these plots are happening at the same time, and they're being teased out now over multiple issues, which over the course of this run is going to take, like, I believe, a couple years for all of this to play out. So, for people who are buying this monthly at the newsstands, it certainly must have felt like this was an epic that was being parceled out in monthly installments. And I also wonder if it was a little bit easier to get away with this back in those days because there were no collected editions. And there was no internet database where you could kind of look up the past adventures of the superheroes. So if you happen to miss those issues that came out 3 years ago when these same plot lines were being replayed, when those plot lines were being originally played, then maybe you didn't notice how much repetition was going on. And maybe you vaguely remembered it, but you didn't save your old issues or all those kinds of things. So you do get the sense that perhaps Marv Wolfman was thinking to himself, all right, the first time, during the first couple of years of my run on the Teen Titans, I had all these great ideas. I ran through them way too quickly. I should really have paced them out and milked the drama for a lot longer. Let me try it again and milk the drama more this time. And do a better job at having an A plot and a B plot where the B plot is kind of simmering slowly in the background. So like the Church of Brother Blood, we just get it simmering slowly in the background. Steve Dayton as Memento appears from time to time, and it's something that the characters are talking a lot about. But he only appears a couple of times to fight Cyborg and Logan, and the rest of the time he's just a threat menacing in the background that the other heroes are talking about. So there's a much better job being done here of just kind of milking that tension over time. Okay, that being said, even though there's a much better job being done here of taking advantage of serialization and making this into a long epic that takes place over several years, I don't really like any of these storylines. The space opera that happens on Tamaran is very visually appealing, and maybe now is as good a time as any to mention that the artwork throughout this is, in my opinion, gorgeous. I don't know if this qualifies as high art, but certainly in terms of the characters and the colors just popping through much of this. This is being done by, I believe his name is Eduardo Barreto. Actually, let me double check that. Eduardo Barreto, who has, I guess, taken over from George Perez. George Perez was the original artist and one of the co-creators of the Teen Titans, but yeah, I don't really miss George Perez at all. I think this I don't know, I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying that, but this is just really catchy art throughout the whole thing. It just pops. So the artwork is gorgeous. But Brother Blood, I've never really liked him as a villain. He doesn't really have any sort of personality. The Corey's sister on Tamaran, these storylines, I don't know. Tamaran doesn't really have any sort of believable characters or any sort of characters you care about. It does usually seem to have a lot of busty woman in poses that are meant to attract the eye. In a way that strikes me now as a middle-aged reader is just being a little bit too blatant. I mean, there's catering to the fans, but you got to be a little bit more subtle about it, right? Look at that. I didn't remember it being so blatant when I was 15. Maybe because I just took this kind of stuff for granted. So yeah, and then Memento. The Memento storyline, it never really struck me as very enjoyable because he's just way too powerful. So he's able to control everything with his mind, rearrange molecules with his mind, take control of different people from miles away. And you wonder, if he hates the Titans as much as he says he does, then why doesn't he just kill them from a distance and be done with them? The whole thing just never really made any sense to me in terms of the omnipotent powers he seems to have versus how little damage he does in the end to the Titans. And he's always a threat, but it never really seems to materialize. It confused me when I was 15, and reading through these issues now again, I just don't get what his deal is. A character this powerful should have just killed the Titans and been done with it. So, yeah. Those are my main criticisms. Now, let's jump in and pick apart maybe these stories a little bit more carefully. The first 100 pages are dedicated to the space opera Up in Tamaran, in which we have three of the Titans, Starfire, and then Dick Grayson and Jericho are along for the ride. And Jericho is one of the most boring Titans as well. So he doesn't really do anything to lighten things up over here. There are elements of this which are interesting, some elements of the world building which are interesting, but by and large it's fairly boring. The big thing that happens here is as Corey has gone back to her home planet, she's forced into a political marriage, which Dick Grayson, as her lover, is upset about. And it's a little bit inconsistent what's expected of Dick Grayson here. At some points, his lover Corey is telling him he has to accept this. At other points, she's wishing that he's going to intervene and stop it, and she's wondering why he doesn't. Here's one. She's getting married here, and she's just waiting for Dick Grayson to stop the wedding. Yeah. Please, Dick, you can stop this. Say something. Which is inconsistent from the way it was set up earlier, but okay. I'm not going to harp on these minor inconsistencies. Well, I guess I just did. But I'm going to move on. So she stays to fight for her home planet of Tamaran, but Dick Grayson, realizing there's nothing left for him, goes back to Earth, where we pick up with the rest of the Titans, and this is page 100. So we spend we spend 1/3 of this book in that space opera in Tamaran. And now we come back to the rest of the Titans who are recovering from Crisis on Infinite Earths and talking about all the people who died in the crisis. We stay here fighting in some intergalactic crisis. So Supergirl, Flash, Huntress, all those others too died. And of course, from the Titans, Cole was dead. So this happened not in the pages of the Titans, but Crisis on Infinite Earths, number 12. So Crisis on Infinite Earths, I've talked about that on this channel before. I'll link to it in the description down below. It's the DC event in which all the multiverses were merged into one universe, and the memory of there ever having been a multiverse was erased from everyone's minds. Which makes you wonder what, in the present continuity, what crisis did they think they were fighting in? I mean, we, the reader, know that this was when the multiverse was collapsing, but the characters no longer have a memory of any multiverse. So what in their minds was the crisis? I'm sure this question must be answered on some comic book fan website somewhere, but I don't know what the answer is. So in addition to Cole being killed in the crisis, there are a few other Titans who were killed who are going to figure in later. One was Aquagirl, the girlfriend of Aqualad, who was one of the old Teen Titans. And the other one was Dove, the brother of Hawk from Hawk and Dove. Again, another one of the old Teen Titans. They're going to figure later in a bit. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Excuse me. My throat is a little bit dry. Maybe you can hear that in my voice. So I'm sipping tea to try and keep my voice active. Okay, so Dick Grayson comes back, and he is unshaven here. You can see he's got the stubble on his face, which in comic books indicates how much of a mess he is. Because his lover, Starfire, married somebody else, and Donna Troy, who's trying to be the leader of the group, keeps wanting to talk to him about it and force him to deal with his emotions, but he doesn't want to deal with it, which leads to a great confrontation between them. And yeah, here's fighting memento. We'll skip past this. So this and the issues following it have some great dramatic moments here. And I'm a little bit reminded of what I said when I was reviewing the volumes that dealt around the Judas contract, the other famous Titan storyline, where the story itself doesn't make a lot of sense. I said that about Judas contract as well. But the way that the tension is written is something which gradually builds up and then gradually builds up and gets more and more, the emotions get more and more intense until finally there's just this burst of release. That is done quite well in a number of these pages in the story that follows. And these were scenes that I made an impression on me when I was 15. I read them and reread them. And then coming back to them, I'm pleasantly, I was kind of expecting to find out that they weren't that great. And it was the kind of thing that a 15-year-old thinks is really good drama. But as a 40-something-year-old man, I realized actually it's not that great after all. But coming back to them, boy, these scenes are just really well written. The way the tension just builds and builds and builds until it bursts. And so I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to reread them on camera. I shouldn't do that because I don't have the dramatic chops to pull this off, but I just really want to attempt to share these scenes. So again, Dick Grayson is back. He doesn't want to talk about what happened. Donna Troy is trying now for the second or third time to force him to talk about that. So she says, "I'm not going to let you give up, Dick. Corey may be married, but it's not the end of the universe. Not for her or for you. And I'm not going to let you take out your frustrations on the rest of us. Do you hear what I'm saying, Dick? Donna, your mistake is you assume I give a damn about what you are saying. I don't. Move aside, please. I want to go out. No, I'm not done. I said I don't care. Now please move. No. I hear what you're saying, but I don't believe what I'm hearing. I know you better. You weren't there, Donna. You didn't see them together. You don't know how I've changed. I want to know what happened to Raven. I read the preliminary report in the new tower. What are we talking about? We're discussing you, not Raven. You never cared much about her before. Don't change the subject. I'm not talking about me anymore, Donna. And if you want to keep this civil, you'll answer my question. It sounds as if she and her mother were kidnapped, and that Brother Blood's people did it. Is that true? Did you check it out? What have you done about it? No, I didn't have time to look into it. There's been so much happening. Okay, now this is great here. It switches from Donna Troy trying to pin Dick Grayson down to Dick Grayson abruptly just turning the tables, or maybe not abruptly, gradually turning the tables until he is the one emotionally tormenting Donna Troy. So let's read through this. He says, let's see now. You want the Titans to stay together, but in my absence, what have you done? You let Vic and Gar go off searching for Memento, who has presumably gone mad. The fact that Memento's mind-powered helmet could level a small city didn't enter into your head. So off they go with no backup. Wonderful. Raven is reported kidnapped by Brother Blood's people. We've been seeing Blood's churches sprouting up everywhere. You remember the first time we fought Blood. He was able to walk right through Raven's soul self. Now Raven's in his power and you didn't ask yourself why he'd want her? Great, fearless leader, just great. On top of all of that, Cole's dead. And what did you do while all this was happening? What menace were you fighting? What was distracting you from following up on Raven's disappearance or Memento's insanity? Please, Dick, don't say it. Your husband needed help writing some college paper. The world goes to hell in a handbasket, but you stay at home helping someone write a lousy story. Stop it, Dick. Stop it. No, I won't stop it. How dare you tell me what to do when you screwed up so badly? Raven could be dead by now. Who knows what Memento did to Gar and Vic? Maybe your failure killed Cole. No, I won't stop. I won't. And then, bam, the tension just explodes. Shut up, Dick. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. I don't want to hear you anymore. And so then she is trying to get him, and he is just having to dodge her furious assaults. And the argument continues. But yeah, what a great way to just gradually ratchet up that tension until it just finally explodes there. That is good writing. And I was pleasantly surprised coming back to it to see how good that writing was. And there are a few other scenes in this next little arc. So this next arc, the Titans have all gone their own way. There's a mission that needs doing. So Donna Troy calls back together the original Teen Titans. Kind of. We're cheating a little bit here. So the original Teen Titans were Wonder Girl, Kid Flash, Aqualad, and Robin. With Speedy being not one of the originals, but very close. So Kid Flash has now been promoted to Flash. Barry Allen died during Crisis on Infinite Earths, so Wally West, the Kid Flash, has now become the full Flash. So he's now the full Flash, but it's still the same Wally West. this is the new Robin now. This is Jason Todd Robin, who of course is going to be infamous for being killed off by the Joker in Death in a Family. But that is all down the road a little bit. At this point, I don't think anyone was envisioning that fate for him yet, so he's just the new Robin. So it's Robin, but not the original Dick Grayson. Okay, close enough to the original Teen Titans. And then Hawk was part of the first series of the Teen Titans, but not one of the originals. All right, close enough. So here they are with the original Teen Titans are back. Now, these next few issues, which follow their adventures, are great. If you overlook some things. So, Hawk is portrayed as just being crazy here. And Wonder Girl says a couple times during the course of this that because his brother Dove is now dead, Dove died in Crisis on Infinite Earths, there's no one to calm Hawk down. So, yeah, that's an interesting take on the character. I'm not sure if that's what Steve Ditko originally intended, but I mean, who cares about that? Without, Hawk may have been the guy on that duo who gets things done, but without Dove around to calm him down, he's crazy, and he goes off on a very right-wing. He goes off the deep end with right-wing politics here. But completely crazy. And there's even some, Kid Flash used to be the right-wing asshole of the group, so to speak. But even he is distancing himself from Hawk. So Hawk says, "Shame, Flash, I thought we were alike. Should have known better. Trouble with you liberals is you mollycodding your enemies. Me, commies, criminals, whatever. They get in my way, they pay for it." Now, if we're going to apply logic to this, the part of the story which does not make sense is that it is obvious right from the beginning that Hawk has gone crazy and that he's going to be a liability on this mission. And really, it's a mystery why Donna Troy or any of the rest didn't say, "All right, Hawk, this one is politically sensitive. It requires a little bit of tact. You're going to sit this one out because you're obviously crazy." Because it's established very early on that he's obviously crazy. They don't do that, which leads to some great drama, but, doesn't make any logical sense. All right, the other thing is they are going after Cheshire, who has had a daughter, a baby, with Roy Harper, Speedy. Now, it was mentioned earlier in the Titans' previous encounter with Cheshire that she did have a romantic liaison and, I believe, a kid with Speedy. The actual romantic liaison they had didn't occur in the pages of the Teen Titans magazine. It occurred in a different comic. But this is the first time that Speedy is going to encounter Cheshire since she has had his child. So he doesn't want to go on the mission. But he doesn't. The other Titans don't know about his history with Cheshire. So he says, okay, I'm just not happy about it. That's all. So they don't know what he's upset about. Since when? You work with the government. Come on, Roy, we need you. He's upset about something. But the other Titans don't know what it is. And so this sets us up for a great couple of issues here in which Hawk goes crazy and Roy Harper has to confront his former lover who now wants to kill him. But I'm going to have to film this in part 2. This camera shuts off automatically after 30 minutes, so I'm going to start a new video file and film part 2 in which I continue talking about these issues.